Check out this factory. Yes, that's right. Factories have entered the metaverse, and that means we're getting closer to outdoor decor shops and more user-generated content. If you're already rushing to start creating your first factory, I'm here to tell you stop. There's a lot of things that you should know before you start constructing a factory. You don't want to tie up all that valuable spark in constructing this factory with the chance that you might not even have good use for it. On Twitter, this player Mr. Georges sent me a tweet saying, thinking about starting building of a factory in Koreatown in Los Angeles. Below I think why. What do you think about it? And his reasoning behind starting this factory is twofold. One, I invested in LA heavily. I have there most of my UPEX, but the city is still minted only for 67%, and I can't sell most of my properties even for 1.2 times what I paid for it. Number two, I have some nice big properties in Koreatown and Hollywood Hills. I would not start a factory in the hills. So I reached out to Mr. Georges. I asked him a couple of follow-up questions to get more information. I asked him if I could make a video of this and share his tweet and also talk a little bit about his property because I really think that his question can help you out. I think if you have big properties as well and you're contemplating if you're looking to start building a factory, I'm going to try and give you some further insight to help you determine if building a factory is right for you and if this is the right time to do it. The first thing I want to do is learn a little bit more about this property. I can see here that the size is 494 up squared, and we know that 1 up squared is equal to 9 square meters. So the size here is very important, and it's important to note that what we can't see here is actually the inventory lot. And what that means is when you construct a factory, obviously within the factory itself, this is where you're going to be producing your goods. But what happens once that good is produced? You need to store it somewhere on the property. And if the whole factory is being used inside in order to produce, then the natural place to hold the inventory is in the back lot somewhere. So the inventory lot has to be created as a rectangle, and it can be as large as you want it to be, but obviously it has to fit on the exact same property where you have your factory. So if you're dead set on actually creating this factory, what you want to do is make sure that you maximize the inventory lot. And here, just at a first glance, it's not obvious, but it would be worth taking a look and seeing either this rectangle here is one option, or if he could move this factory into this area over here, he might be able to do the inventory lot in this rectangle here. I'm not sure if that will fit or which one gives you the biggest lot, but that is something that you definitely want to take into consideration because once you start constructing your factory, you will be unable to change the inventory lot. If you wanted to do that, you would have to demolish the structure and start again. You can see here that this is the MV Motors car manufacturing plant, and we can see all these cars lined up here outside the factory. So this is essentially the beginning of the inventory lot, and we can see that all of these cars are being placed on this property. This property is so huge that I have to zoom out to see it, but you can see they probably define the entire inventory lot to be all of this. So there are going to be thousands of cars that can be placed on this inventory lot. Now, in addition to the spark that you need in order to construct the factory, spark is also used to manufacture any of the goods that you create within your factory. If you want to learn more about spark, take a look at the link in the upper right-hand corner. Now, let's say you have something that you are producing and you have lots of spark and you're producing and you're producing and you're producing, and your inventory lot gets filled up with inventory and there's nowhere else to put any new inventory. What's going to happen? You're going to stop producing. Automatically, you have to stop production because you have a bottleneck. There's nowhere for you to put your inventory. So what are you going to do with all that stuff that you've produced? Now, this brings me to my very first question that I would have for Mr. Georges. What are you going to do once your inventory lot gets full? What's your game plan? Before I even ask, what are you going to be producing? What happens when you've produced these things? How are you going to sell them? Who are you going to sell them to? How are you going to get these things off of your property and into the showroom? After all, the showroom is going to be where people are going to travel in order to purchase these manufactured goods. They're not going to go directly to the manufacturing site. So one of the main things that you have to consider if you are going to be a manufacturer is, what does your supply chain look like? Once you've manufactured the goods and now they're sitting on your inventory lot and your lot is starting to fill up with the goods that you've produced, how are you going to transport them to the showroom? Either you are going to be doing this on your own or someone is going to be doing this for you. You are going to have to know that you are going to have a constant supply of vehicles coming to your property, picking up the goods, removing them from the inventory lot, and taking them to the showroom. Now, we can also expect that each showroom is also going to have a certain amount of inventory that it can hold on to, whether it's in the form of actual pieces and quantities that it can hold, or if it's going to be a factor of size, that's unclear. But regardless, once something is in this showroom, you are going to want to sell it. You don't want to have that inventory there either. So if people are not going to be buying these goods from the showroom, then the showroom is going to get completely full of inventory as well. And that's another bottleneck that can be created in this process. If the showroom isn't selling any goods, you're not going to be able to transport any goods from that factory to the showroom. And once again, your inventory lot will start to fill up to the point where you're going to have to stop producing again. Now, if that happens, these vehicles that are transporting the goods, they have nothing to do either. So those end up stopping and being idle. And if you're using an outside service, they're dependent on transporting the goods in order to make money. So you're not going to be able to pay them. And this is going to be a very, very big mess for you. So if your initial thought was, wow, factories are going to be great, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to produce some cool things and maybe sell them, you really have to take into account a lot of these things that can happen in the metaverse. The next question I have for you, Mr. Georges, or anyone else who is looking to create a factory within Upland, is, what are you going to be manufacturing? Who's going to be designing the goods that are going to be manufactured and sold? How many of each item are going to be produced? What is going to be the cost of it? What is going to be the price that you want to sell it at? All of these things are also important that you figure out on your own, or you figure this out with the designers, or you figure it out with whoever is creating the concept of the item that is going to be produced. Let's say you have so many designers lined up that have things that are ready to be produced. Someone wants to make flower pots, someone else wants to make fences. Now the question is, which one are you going to produce first? How are you going to prioritize your production lots? How are you going to decide how many flower pots you're going to make before you go and produce some fences and then you move back to your flower pots? So how many flower pots in total do you want to create? How many are you going to be creating in each lot? And how are you going to manage what gets produced first? And how are you going to manage the people that want each one of those produced first? The guy with the fences is going to be saying, well, I really need these fences now. I can't wait a couple of days for you to finish these flower pots. How can I get to the front of the line? And you're going to have to manage that as well. Another question that I would ask is, what kind of manufacturing are you looking to do? Are you looking to manufacture things that are extremely large in size? Maybe this 500 up squared property might not be able to hold that many large items. Or do you want to focus on manufacturing small things and manufacturing a lot of them? These larger items will probably also need semi-trailers to transport them, or maybe you want to produce smaller items that can be transported more easily, more quickly. This factory that we see here is titled Small Factory, so we can expect in the future that there will be other types and much larger factories as well. So it's worthwhile trying to decide what you might want to produce, and maybe you might want to wait for one of these other models to come out and you have a larger property to create larger items if that's what you're looking to manufacture, or if that's what you want to specialize in. The next thing I want to talk about manufacturing ties into something I spoke about a couple of moments ago, and that's the showroom. The showroom is where everything is going to be sold. And another question you are going to have to ask yourself is, do you want to manage those showrooms as well? You might be someone who wants to take care of the entire supply chain, have everything under one roof, to be able to do the designing of the items, to be able to manufacture it, of course, to do the shipping to the showroom, to sell it from the showroom as well. Or do you just want to focus on the manufacturing aspect of things? Regardless of what your answer is, you have to make sure that the showroom is able to sell these goods. that people want to buy them. It's not just the issue of selling them. You can't sell something if no one wants to buy it. So if you are making flower pots, you have to know that there is a demand for these flower pots, that people want to buy them. Not just that people want to buy them, but that people within that area want to buy them. If I have this manufacturing plant in Koreatown in Los Angeles, and I have the showroom also close by in Los Angeles, but I have customers that are in Bakersfield, which is a train ride away. Is that good for business? I'm not sure. But this is something that you need to know before you start manufacturing and selling these things. So it goes beyond being in contact with some of these designers who can create and design the goods for you. You are also going to have to be in coordination with the showroom owner who can tell you, oh, these flower pots are really selling and these fences might not be selling. So start producing me more flower pots. And that person is going to have to be able to understand the market and know that there is a increased demand for these things in that area. Now, at this point, it might also be possible that fences might require one type of vehicle and flower pots might require a different type of vehicle. So if your showroom is saying, get me more flower pots, you might have to find more of that specific type of vehicle in order to support that transportation route. So there's a lot of juggling that is going to have to happen when you're involved in manufacturing. So to summarize, there's a lot of information that I provided in this video, and there's a lot of things to consider. As a manufacturer, you are one part of the supply chain. It all starts with the customer. What does the customer want? If a customer wants flower pots, someone's going to need to design these flower pots. Someone's going to need to manufacture these flower pots. From the manufacturing, you have your inventory lot. You're going to need someone to transport these goods from the manufacturing plant to the showroom. Once at the showroom, they're going to have to be sold. You're going to have to do some sales, some marketing, find out who these customers are, let them know where your showroom is to come and purchase these goods. All of these different players within the supply chain are going to have to be connected in one way or another through communication routes to ensure that everything runs smoothly. If there is a communication breakdown between some of these links and some of these people who manage these different entities, you might find out that, let's say, the car didn't show up on time because it had to be recharged because it ran out of its fuel, which is spark, and now there's no one to take the inventory off of the lot, and now your factory has stopped producing because there's nowhere to put this inventory. Now, I almost forgot to mention two important things. The first one is that you can take a look at the link in the description below where I have more information about manufacturing. And the second thing is, how much is all of this going to cost? How much is someone willing to pay for a flower pot? If they're only willing to pay 5,000 UPIX and the person who operates the showroom is going to want to get some money and make a profit, the car owner who is transporting the goods from the manufacturing plant to the showroom also wants to make some money. You, as the manufacturer, obviously you want to make some money as well. And the person who designed the flower pot to begin with is also going to want to make a profit. How much does all of this cost? How much can you sell these goods for? All of this is also something that somebody is going to need to calculate. When you're thinking about pricing these things out, things like proximity to your customer, the distance you have to travel between the showroom and the manufacturing plant, the price of the manufacturing plant, the cost of spark, and so many other factors go into this. I believe that this is just the very beginning. This was an introductory video into manufacturing. There are a lot more things that provide added complexities to this entire supply chain, and there is a lot of thought that is going to need to be going into building up a lot of this user-generated content and create these supply chains and services that people can provide in order to support all of the manufacturing and all of the user-generated content that will be entering Upland in the near future. If you have any general or specific questions about manufacturing, please feel free to leave me a comment, reach out to me on Twitter, on Discord, wherever you find me, and maybe you could be the feature of one of my next videos.